you cannot reason a person into a position they weren't reasoned into in the first place. I call this bringing logic to a stupid fight. Oh yeah, and Maya's son is here. Black Freethinkers. Let's go. All right. Welcome, everybody. So Key is with us, our special guest. And of course, the lovely Maya Adkisson is in the building.
So, know me.
So that quote I read at the top of the show, you cannot reason a person out of a position he did not reason himself into in the first place. That is a quote that came up on Ember's stream yesterday. And I've heard it before. I think
I want to say Dillahunty says it or has said it.
Yeah, it gets around. People definitely bring it up. So I sent Ember a super chat, and this is what I want to talk to you. I sent Ember a super chat that said, I love that quote, but if we took it seriously, I think it would suggest a serious change in tactics. Right? Because I feel like we spend a lot of time trying to do exactly that. Right? We spend a lot of time talking about, a lot of us happen to be atheists. We sit around talking about theists. You're talking to theists. A lot of us are, left-leaning in some form or fashion. We spend a lot of time sitting around arguing about right-wingers. And it feels like we're trying to reason people out of positions they weren't reasoned into to begin with, aka bringing logic to a stupid fight. So yeah, I just wanted to get thoughts on that, and yeah, what do y'all think? Like,
Key, why don't you go? Because you were saying you're spitting bars right before the stream.
I don't like people in general because they're just a headache to talk to begin with. But like with websites like Twitter and Reddit, I usually try to avoid arguing with someone because trying to change their mind on any topic or opinion is going to be like damn near impossible. So I tell you to get off of Twitter, but you just insist on arguing with it. You're wasting your time. You're not going to convince them. You can tell them how stupid they are. They're not going to believe it. It's like, oh, this person is just so stupid. It's like fighting an uphill battle. You ever seen that? You ever seen that guy pushing up the rock up the hill? What is it, for Felicius or something? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So are you frozen?
So it's usually a cartoon.
No, let me see if I can find it.
Okay, there we go. Gotcha. So we can hear you at least.
We can hear that keyboard.
Yeah.
I have a loud keyboard too.
I do too. So I have the keyboard I use when I'm streaming, and then my loud keyboard, which is fun. It's rainbow and does the things.
Man, it's better than mine.
He actually talked me into buying it. I wasn't gonna.
I'm very persuasive. Not persuasive enough to get you a car, but
so speaking of being persuasive, right? So my thing isn't, because I've been thinking about this, and for me, like I said, to me, it's not necessarily like they can't be convinced. I think, and from what I've read and looked at into this, it's saying that a lot of these positions, they're based on emotion, they're based on social ties, they're based on cultural identity, whatever it might be. And so the saying is, what I think they're getting at is, we should get at those things. And so what I was kind of gonna take it is it okay to appeal to emotion? Because to me, I think this is kind of where it goes. I think when I hear that, it just kind of reminds me like, oh yeah, it's important actually to appeal to emotion. It's important to get at what a person feels about themselves, what's important to them. To me, it's a reminder to talk about values more so than facts. But then there are people who say, I don't think we should necessarily appeal to emotion because ethical reasons, principled stances, whatever. And I'm like, nah, that's taking away the best tool we got, especially when it's emotion and these other things that got people in this mess to begin with.
I'm gonna let you take care of the super chat, and then I'm gonna jump in like right where you left off.
Okay, wait, let me find the there it goes. Okay, so we got the super sticker from Secular
Sakai.
Sakai. Is that you? Is that him?
No.
No.
That's pretty.
Well, look, thanks for the super sticker. We appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, that's
So-
what they need to know. We making them dollars around here.
I was actually having a conversation about this last Wednesday, and I can't remember if you were in the chat or not, but and actually, $2 from you hooligan just came in.
Oh, thank you,
I'm sorry,
thank you, you
2 maple
hooligan.
bucks.
My tithing to the goddess. That's why she here. You know what I'm saying?
And Jay, I know that you have a psych background along with me.
Little bit.
And so like my master's is in behavioral psychology, and then my passion is in a lot recently, ever since Trump entered the election, like what is it about people who like this cult mentality? And a lot of it, again, when we're talking about, and this is why, like, for a lot of people think that religion is a mental illness, and I'm like, it's not. It's just not. And I know a lot of people who don't understand psychology or medicine or anything like that like to push back on that, but like the reason is it doesn't get treated at all the same way. It doesn't remedy itself at all the same way. When we're looking at the things that bring people, like, I have a history of depression, and I can't reason my way out of that. Like it takes meds. I can remedy it with, food, sometimes food a little bit, exercise a little bit, meditation a little bit, but none of that stuff works on religion at all. Like not even a little bit. So, like, or not religion, yeah, religion one, and then mental, like all that stuff. Like when we're talking about why people are where they are. Like my big thing, obviously, when you go to my channel and you see us talking about a lot of it's like QAnon and conspiracy theorist is actually more closely aligned to religion than mental, more closely. It is in the same genre with religion and not with any segment of mental health. And yeah, when you are looking at why somebody is holding to a belief, I would say it's important to start with facts. And if they're impervious to facts, there's an emotional hold. And at that point, you have to figure out what the emotional hold is, keeping them in that belief. Because that's the thing. At that point, it's no longer, oh, I believe this because I want to believe facts. I believe this because there's some emotional connection, whether it's all my friends are in that church, or I'm going to get kicked out of my house, or I want to see, my sister died when we were kids. She was my best friend. And the only thing keeping me going is the fact that, I'm going to see, my mom, my grandma, my sister, my best friend again. Like, you have to address whatever that issue is before you can move them out of that thought. And you're just not going to get them without that. And again, I know here, this is Skeptic Cave, and a lot of people here are here because of, they want to talk about religious stuff, but it's a good thing about this conversation is it's not confined to religion. You can do it with, a number of things. Maybe you have a Trumper friend, family members, and they won't see that Donald Trump is, they believe that anything that speaks negatively about Trump is fake news. This also applies to that. So it's not just one thing. I'm sorry. I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk for a while.
Hey, Key.
What?
Say, go ahead.
No, I feel like, going to your point, Jay, like we have to, I don't feel like it depends on the argument. I don't feel like you need to like configure to someone's like emotional state on like how they feel about it. You can acknowledge it, but like going to like depending on what the argument is, I don't feel like you can really like appeal to that. Because like with like definitions of words, I was talking to Maya about this before, where you have to get on the same level as that, and like just go on the same basis. If you can't go on the same basis of anything, like during like a conversation or argument, then you're not going to move anywhere. It just feels like a waste of time. Like one person can have like a definition of like regret, and the other person can have this definition of it, but like there is a definition for it that like you have to use. I know like this is why like I hate like words always changing, because colloquially words are always going to mean different things. Like I told you about water being wet. Mom, really? Remember that?
Yeah, he's the one that introduced me to the water is wet thing.
And we're both right. We'll get into that later, but that I just feel like it's hard to get on the same page as a lot of people. And I just try to get like, all right, we can agree or disagree, or at least get on like some understanding, but I don't really try to change people's ideas and stuff.
Interesting. So Maya, I gotta confess, I'm one of the bad people when it comes to the religion and mental illness thing.
You should know better, though. I don't even understand that.
So I'll tell you where I'm coming from. So one, I heard somebody say it that it wasn't a mental illness in a way that was very much a cope, and my thoughts were kind of a couple things. So one, I recognize it's not a diagnosable mental condition, right?
It's not even a treatable mental condition.
But I think mental health exists on like a lot of different axes, right? And for me, it's like there are things that we consider to be related to mental health. I'm thinking maybe psychopathy, certain things like that, where it's not necessarily about it being a diagnosed mental thing. It could be like a personality trait or something that is just something we use to describe people who are a certain way that we consider outside the social norm, right? And we're playing loosey-goosey. I'm admitting that that's a little bit right, because there is a difference between saying, this or that is messed up, and this or that is, like you should be seeking treatment or getting medication and for that. And I think what my pushback was I wanted people to deal with it's not okay. You are, from any honest person's perspective, you are you are a grown person with a phenomenon similar to an imaginary friend, on some other order of importance and emotional attachment to you. You are believing in things that do not comport with reality and showing a strong emotional attachment to those things. You are whispering at the sky and performing like cult rituals that magical incantations and all of that. And for me,
do this with sports.
Fine, but I don't think sports is detached from reality in the same way. Yeah, like, and
he's talking about like people who have rituals and
I know some of it you could get sports fan with, but I do think
that's like superstitious stuff.
Yeah, I think
if I sit in this part of the couch to win,
religion is in the realm of superstition too.
And yes, into the point when sports does get superstitious, that's weird. And if somebody's superstition like that wasn't probably confined just to sports. Like there come a point where enough of this, like people probably think if you want to sit in your lucky chair because you think that's going to increase the chance the Packers win, like fine. But
and I got to sit in my lucky draws, and can't
right.
ever wash them, or else
But if
he won't win.
but if you doing something crazy in the office on Tuesday and you doing stuff all day, every day, all week, that's equivalent to that lucky chair. People gonna feel a little bit.
I mean, let's think about it like this.
Differently about that.
Most people don't, and to what Key was talking about earlier, most people don't really think through why they believe what they believe. People are told, and this goes through school where we're told what we believe, and it's like, here, take what I tell you and pass this test, and I will reinforce that behavior with a good grade, and your parents will get off your back, and you will get into a good college and get this good job. And when our brain is forming, that's how our neural connections are aligning. And a lot of times, oh God, I remember, do you remember a couple of years ago when there was was a book or a study came out about how poverty is related to mental retardation, I think.
What?
Yeah, because like we've seen this in like babies. So like if a baby has like not a cataract, but something obstructing its eye, it doesn't take very long for, like you can remove it and then like just there's nothing obstructing the eye. The baby still can't see, or the child, toddler, whatever, still can't see, and that's because the pathways in the brain didn't form, and so they just don't form. And so that's the same thing with retardation. And I'm sorry if I'm upsetting somebody, or I can use a different term. I'm just not thinking straight right now, but I think people understand what I'm trying to say. It's like if you don't learn how to think,
development.
It just doesn't develop.
You'll be behind. Yes. Cohort, yeah.
And we do see this. So when people think about the stupid Southerner with that drawl, and how the poor people just seem like they're dumb, that's what they're thinking of, that they didn't get that stimulation in their brain at the earlier ages, and then those neural connections just didn't form in that way. And it's the same thing with religion. It's the way your brain formed, that the neural connections form. So if your entire life you're told, sit in this chair, read this book, like do what you're told. You don't have to think for yourself. Think the way I tell you to think, and you will be rewarded, positively reinforced with these good grades, with this college scholarship, with this, parents staying off your back, being praised by teachers and all the adult figures that you admire or told should admire. You don't have to think. All you have to do is believe what we tell you to think, and then good things will happen to you in life. This is the same way that religion sneaks its way in there. And so now I'm an adult and I've been thinking this way my whole life. All of us do this. And it's just like, I don't know how to think for myself at some point. And this is happening for a lot of Americans, where we have to push really hard how to think for yourself. And even when people are told, oh, you should think for yourself, do your own research. The information's out here. I don't have time to teach you how gravity works. They go out there and looking at mommy blogs because they were never taught how to study on their own or to find reliable sources, or what a reliable source even is. And this religion is intertwined in all of that. What is a good source? It is who I trust. Our whole lives. A good source is a person I trust. And so to say, well, that's not equal to retardation or mental illness. It's a normal brain functioning, honestly.
I know, but I guess what I'm getting at is there's ordinary usage of things, and there's things. So for me, it's like delusion, right? It's
not delusion.
How is it not? How is it not?
It's a normal. I just explained. I went through like a very 5 minutes of explaining how this is the normal way the brains function.
But anytime it might be normal, it might be ordinary, it might be but it's still not.
Delusions are by definition abnormal.
Wouldn't the thinking be abnormal? Because I think it is delusion.
I think it's errant, right? That's what I'm saying. It's
being
errant.
non-religious is more abnormal than being religious.
But see, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not trying to argue it's normality or deviation based on statistical trends in the human population. I'm trying to say I think there's a microphone here. If most people think there's a microphone here, if I would say there isn't a microphone here, people would think I'm not. There's something not processing about my brain. This is what I'm saying. This is just an ordinary way. Like, people don't have degrees in psychology, right? So
Right.
people think like, yo, I'm trying to like. There's a certain amount of effort we have to go through to convince people of like what's really up. And to us, when it goes beyond that, we just in ordinary speak say, hey, that person's a conspiracy theorist, a deluded, people, it gets into that territory. And all I'm saying is I think people who hear that should start hearing that in good faith. Because for somebody like me, if like I have a mental health thing and it's a mood disorder, and so people are all up in my business about what's normal, what's abnormal. And I've literally been hospitalized because people think I didn't get to sleep in time. Like, literally, you were up all night, must be having an episode, calling boys. I get hospitalized for that. So it does create a certain prejudice and a bias where I'm like, wait, what's up with all these people running around whispering to the sky? Because again, I have friends who are schizophrenic, and it's like, they thought somebody was following them and they weren't. They thought, they're divided, like stuff like that. And again, that was clinical. And so it feels very much like, to be honest, I'll be honest, I'm not necessarily interested in whether it meets clinical thresholds or whatever. It just feels like these people are playing around with non-reality in a way that's been made safe for them. That's not safe for other people.
Right.
It feels like part of what needs to change is it needs to stop being a privilege of these people play around in non-reality in a way the rest of us can't. And I think that's where a lot of us come from, where we don't have a better way to get at that than being like, that seems like you're doing something that's not healthy psychologically, I'll put it, right?
Well, it's certainly not healthy for us. I think that it's a tool. I mean, when it comes to that, about, like when we're talking about fighting, like how they're justifying their belief systems, then I hear you. But we see with Brexit that people don't need to have religion to have nationalist ideations and to justify it with just bullshit or abject bullshit. For me, I feel like there are politicians who are using it as a tool to solidify power. I don't disagree with what you're saying about the effects. I disagree that it is the catalyst, I guess. And I mean, we do see that people can be nationalists without religion. So I wouldn't put it all on religion. I definitely think there's other things people are that way about. A matter of fact, that's part of my concern, is that I think we've gone far too much in normalizing religious type thinking, conspiratorial type thinking, and now it's bled over inexorably into other areas of people's lives. And I used to, and here's an example, is we're sort of used to people believing things that maybe we don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, I believe this because of my religion. I believe this because my Bible says it, the book says it, whatever. And we even got to a point where we kind of normalized getting used to people saying, I have this particular prejudice or I have this particular bigotry because it says so in my book, da 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 da. And
then it got weird because people started to get weirdly religious about being conservative, right? Like, and to the point that like that's just their thing. And now I'll hear people, and I'm not trying to do the endorsing candidates or anything like that, but I will hear people use conservative in the same way,
Oh,
of
yeah.
saying, oh, I don't like this group or I don't like this, and oh,
Yeah.
I'm conservative. And that's just supposed to stand in to like, don't challenge me, don't do anything because now I have this thing. And it's like, and it's just, it's very weird that people are like hiding behind their party in the same way we'd say they hide behind
I don't
God's
know that they're
skirts.
hiding behind their party. And this isn't endorsing or not endorsing one party or another, just to say, facts are, there are preachers who are saying that you cannot be Democrat and a Christian. Like we have this on tape. You can find it on YouTube. They're trying to conflate, and they're doing it on purpose for votes. You can be a not Christian and be Republican. Like that's a thing. There's a lot of Republican atheists.
Oh God, my audio
We know
keeps
them.
skipping over when it does this. Go ahead.
But yeah, and so this is again just politicians trying to manipulate people based on emotion, just like you were saying, like they're playing the emotion game. They're like, well, what is your deeply held belief? Okay, well, if we tie this to politics, then I can get your vote regardless of what I do, even if I'm trying to take away your jobs and not keep the minimum wage stagnant and not give you health care. Like this is the Jesus party, and so you have to vote for me. I mean, we have people doing that, so I don't think it's a bad thing per se, to tap into those same emotions to say, hey, you don't have to do that.
So here's my sales pitch, and Key, I want to know what you think of my sales pitch. Like, my thing was something as simple as saying to like a Christian in my life, I know you're a Christian, and I think that means being honest is really important to you. I think they get on board with that. And then it's just like, are you being honest if in fact you're saying things that aren't true?
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Keith.
Are you being honest, saying things that aren't true? I guess you literally can't be honest then, but I guess it would depend on like what you're saying. Like, are you trying to protect someone's emotions by saying that?
Well, no, that's my goal. My goal is to get them to think about that, because I think for so many Christians, if they jump on that branding of truth and and I want to, because I know a lot of times I want to jump to, well, what does science say, and and get into that, bringing logic to it instead of pulling back and saying, what are the values here? Okay, if the values is truth, then you really value honesty, and then get them to sort of say, in fact, that if they're saying things that aren't true, then they're not honest, and hoping that means something to them. I don't know that necessarily always will, but that's
doesn't understand
like
that you're trying to
sales pitch.
He probably doesn't understand that what you're like trying to do is use the Socratic method, and which is I think it's a really helpful tool. I found it very helpful. And Socratic is just like asking, without going into like the details of it, it's like asking questions, because like if you haven't like breached that divide, if they are seeing you as an other, then they're not going to listen to anything you say. So if you come to them and say, we don't have any evidence for Bigfoot, like that's just not a thing, they're going to be like, well, yeah, well, you're brainwashed, and that's what they want you to think. Like, they're not going to hear anything you say. If they think that you are you do believe in Bigfoot, or you want to believe in Bigfoot, then it's easier to kind of make those plant those seeds to where they're open at all to hearing what you have to say. If they're not open to what you have to say, then everything you're saying is, they're not going to hear anything. Like, in fact, it's just going to be like, every time I hear this, I know that I have to double down because it's what they want me to think. So what the Socratic method does is it forces them to answer questions. And that way it's not you're just asking a question and you're bringing it out of them. It's like, well, what's the evidence we have for Bigfoot? Where is it? Can you show me? And at that point, it's not just you saying it's not here. It's them having to admit that it's
Right.
not there.
But
And so that's what,
in this case in particular, I'm deciding not to ask for evidence or not to ask for an argument and instead ask a question related to values and their emotions. I want to pull on that you are not an honest person if you're not telling the truth heartstring more than I want to pull on what they may or may not know about facts or how they may or may not be able to construct logical arguments. Because I think a big part of the problem is I'm trying to undermine the fact that defending their faith is good no matter what. I'm trying to get something. I'm trying to get them to somehow recognize somewhere in there, if it's not true, then that's not good for business. And I just think it's hard. It's hard. Like when we have conversations, especially online with theists, it's like very hard. They don't seem to care whether or not what they're saying is true. They seem to care about defending their faith against attacks.
right.
A lot of people are sheep. They're not gonna really like study or see what it actually means. They're just gonna regurgitate whatever they hear. I feel like that they need to overcome that before we can even begin to discuss the topic at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier, where people, they the way that they determine what's true is like, okay, well, I trust people, and if I trust somebody, then what they say is true. But also, you also have to fight with, outside of that, how much have they internalized a thought? So there are a lot of people who won't, or religion is another one of them, where, the reason that we have, every time you talk to a different Christian, you get a different version of Christianity is because everybody has a different moral compass, and their religion is really whatever their moral compass is. And that's, insofar as, and then they've relabeled morals as Jesus. So you're not even really fighting their religion, you're fighting their moral compass. And so to say it's Christianity that you're fighting, you're not fighting this book. The book is the thing that they're hiding behind, that they most of the time haven't even read. What you're trying to do is redirect their moral compass, or move the Overton window, their personal one. So I don't know, and it's difficult. It's really difficult, especially like if you don't have a psych background or if you don't know what you're doing. A lot of people do it intuitively, but the knack is trying to figure out why they are holding that position. Once you figure that out, I mean, it's great if you can get someone who just really wants to know facts. But that's not the way our educational system is set up, and that's not the way we were taught to learn, or to receive information. And it's not the way that information is being enforced.
So some fork in the road I'm feeling here is, I think there's a difference between how we engage online and who we engage online and engaging with like friends and family. And part of the distinction I see there is, if I engage with you online and I don't know you, we're gonna probably have some kind of faction-based engagement, right? Like I'm either watching you because I agree with you, I like you, and I want to show love, or I think you're a moron, I'm hate watching, and I'm about to troll you in the chat. And so I do think in that type of interaction, I don't know you well enough to take this other approach. And I think in any approach based on like, oh, I need to figure out, why are you really part of this club? what does being a Trump supporter mean to you, etc. I first have to like care about you and do some kind of relationship building to figure those things out. Because I was gonna ask Key, and I just wanted to set this up. We may be talking about a difference between how you might engage with, say, a rando online versus one of your classmates or coworkers or somebody you actually really trying to get through to for real.
Whenever it's like someone online and they're getting argumentative, either just ignored or blocked. So I'm trying to tell Mother, it's like you're not gonna get through to them. It's not worth your energy. But if it's still
I'm really good at arguing with people online. You don't understand.
I'm very good at arguing.
People find me in the chat and they don't know.
Yeah, they find
other people in the chat just get out the popcorn. And it's like, oh, you don't know who she is?
I'm walking upstairs to your stream and I just see you typing a paragraph to this one guy, and you're
just
like, I can't.
No,
you're like, hold on.
It's the lifestyle.
Paragraph on Twitter.
But like,
no, I'm the queen for a reason. See, Crystal knows. I'm sorry, I'm listening.
But if it's someone like, I've had discussions and like, debates with Monty, like, and it never gets like bad. We always hear each other out. We either agree, disagree, or we understand like the person's side and like point of view on it. But usually, I feel like if online, they might hear it, but then you start name calling, they start like disagreeing with you, and just feel like it's just not worth your time. Which I feel like I'd rather do a debate. Like if I can see your face, it's much easier. I feel like there's less like hostility and everything, because like now there's a face to the name, and you can't be as like crazy as you would be before. But
I definitely agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that we interact with that I think the way they are, a large part of the way they are is because you either never. I think I'm gonna just say this. I think every layer of escalation has more accountability and more ability to connect with it. So I feel like people I've never seen before in the chat, I feel a little bit more connected to the people who use their legal names in the chat than people who just use an alias, because there is something about putting. Yeah, there's something about putting what you say to your legal birth name for real, your government name. And there's something different about if your profile picture is actually you. You see what I'm saying? And then there's something to, do you actually ever get on a stream and people could just even hear you talk, even if you just have an avatar up, right? But at least like you have to verbally say these things in a virtual room of other people to, you know, presumably at least somebody's face, right? And then, like you said, if they're actually on camera and then doing all those other things too, you actually feel like you're having you're much more likely to be having an authentic interaction, I feel like.
There's less like what's it that word? Like punishment for like, you know, showing. I could like be I could change my name, fake profile picture, fake username, and just like troll this entire chat or not. But like now everyone knows who I am, my face. They could, you know, look me up and like, you know, go over my jobs, like, oh, you did such. I've seen that happen a lot actually, where someone said something like racist or sexist or like threatened this person, and it blew up online. And now this person lost their scholarship, or they got in trouble with their parents, or they lost they lost their girlfriend because of it. And it's just like,
yeah, absolutely. Michael Beverly, my picture is kind of me. That's true, Michael. Michael has an animated rendering of himself.
Actually, so do I right now.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool. I was just playing around with what do you call it? Not avatars, but emojis. And there was this one thing that would take your face and make emotes of you. And that was one of them. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I get in trouble for AA art, so I'm going to shut up now. Back to Jay. I don't know. I think that when you're you have to go through a period of relationship building when there's somebody who's. So I'll take myself for example. When God, and this is so crazy. I never talk about this chick because I literally never think about her, but Robin made me think about her the other day, so I'll blame Robin for this. Missing Maud made a comment maybe 2 weeks ago about not. I think her comment was, I make my opinions knowing that I don't have all the information. And me, Crystal, and Edger were just like, huh? But of course, I was the one that said it. I'm like, how does that work? But for whatever reason, I was attacking her, and then she like clutched all of her pearls, all the pearls she could find near her, and then started crying real tears. And I was just like, I that was an honest to God question. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, I mean, I would have just said I think we all have to come to we all come to opinions based on limited information.
To an extent.
And so you recognize you don't have all. Yeah, I guess I wasn't there. But depending on how a person says it, it may or may not strike me as a weird thing to say.
Or sometimes depending on who the person is.
Or depending on who the person is, yes. Yeah. Yes. If yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I just really wanted to walk her through it. I'm like, okay, if you have, but I feel like, and I wasn't really trying to attack her. I really want people to think rational thoughts. So, and I've said this to maybe on my show or to somebody recently. We all form opinions based on limited knowledge, right? Even when we're the expert in the field is still learning new stuff. So where your opinion stands is based on the information that you have at the time, right? So I think it would behoove us to understand that just generally, this is my opinion given the information that I have today. And it could change in the future. I think that's a logical and respectable stance to have. The issue I have with religious thinking is that, God has all the knowledge there can ever be. There's no reason for God to change. So if I'm a godly person, I have to stand on my information, and it can never change. It has to be fixed. And I'm not allowed to move forward. And I think that that's an issue that we have, even if you're not religious, but it's just kind of this latent thinking that's also permeated society, where I have to be right and I cannot change, or that means that I was wrong. And, if I'm wrong on a stance, I'm wrong as a person. And, so I have to hold to this like faulty thinking.
I guess for me, part of the issue is when I hear religious people talk about these things, you often hear them talk literally as though I was trying to figure out which one was correct. In other words, I was trying to figure out which religion was right, which God was the correct one. And I think largely people see atheism in that framework, as it's, there's all these different religions, and then there's these atheist people or agnostics, and they just claim to not have religion. And well, no, but that's somehow in the same vein. For me, it's very much no, that whole way of thinking about the world is immodern. The example I've been talking about recently is I teach intro bio. I literally teach your first biology class when you're a freshman, but you're a science major. And we teach our students literally like in the first chapter, the first week of biology, that science is the best thing we've ever come up with to figure out how the world works. And we also tell them, and it's not Jason's idea. It's like in this textbook. It's not me. It's in this textbook. Chapter 1 tells them, yeah, not everything is science, and religion is not science. And it tells them flat out, most things we used to think, there was a religious or spiritual explanation for, we now have a working natural explanation for. So part of this conversation is we're not telling these grown folk the same thing we have to tell our freshman students, and so that's a big part of the conversation. It's like, no, you don't understand. I'm not saying you have the wrong faith. I'm literally saying faith is not how we figure things out, and we
Right.
really need to stop pretending. Right. Like,
Yeah.
it's a total different conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually a great way of summing up what I was saying earlier, where I feel like we are taught to believe things on faith.
Absolutely.
So if I'm basing my opinion because, my teacher told me that this, this book is, is trusted and I should rely upon it. And what I like about biology and all the sciences is not just like it's not just trust the book. There's a lab with every science course.
Oh yeah,
so
you're actually don't taking trust them. The book.
Yeah. Science is very much of everything, really.
Yeah. Also, can I just clear this up real quick too? Because that's a great point you bring. This is not a book that says read it and believe it because it's in the book. It's a book that literally says, "Oh, we learned this thing. Here's the citation of the paper we learned it. Here's the figure from that paper. Okay, here's the people just need to understand this is a book that introduces you to the evidence and is like a guide to the evidence and tells you how to think scientifically. It's not like here's a book full of facts, memorize them and trust us. just take our word for it because we have PhDs. People have that is a common misconception I say people have about book learning. Yeah.
But I don't know. Key, so you're a little younger. Jay and I have a year or two on you.
A little bit.
Just a couple.
People at work think I'm 44, so I might have a couple years on you guys.
If I turn this way and I don't have that many gray hairs in my beard.
My hair's already falling off with you guys.
I know that you're having issues with talking to or making friends, and I keep telling him, I'm like, you need to talk to 30, this higher, like closer to 30, because the people I taught him too well.
That's probably
my problem, where it's just like they were little, like for me, and I know I have a little bit of a reputation for pushing back on people, but I did it with my children. When they were doing things when they were little, it's like, why would you do that? What did you hope to accomplish? Like, what is it you're trying to do? Like, how do we get there? And just like the whole life, it's been like, all right, what's a way that won't get you arrested? We can get from here or grounded, whatever. That we can get you from here to there. And I guess it worked a little too well. And both of them now feel kind of
everyone's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep telling you this, like statistically, this is not probable, right? For everyone to suck. It happens. So I guess I think
it's probable that most of us suck.
Jay had to go to Catholic school to be prevented from like skipping a couple of grades. He has a double PhD.
Oh, you're too smart.
He's in your bucket. I mean, I say in your bucket, but like, he's not the best person to talk to about like how everybody isn't stupid.
Probably
right?
Not. He's too smart for us.
Probably not. I do think
he's too smart for us, right?
I do think most people are really dumb.
No,
which is not good because I gotta be honest with you. I don't think I'm really. I know how many things I'm totally have no information, totally ignorant about, and I'll be looking around like, oh no, we're in trouble.
I mean, and it's kind of weird too, where he works, and it's a pretty big, like a really big company. I think they have around 1,000. Probably 1,000 plus employees.
2,000 employees and three of the.
How many?
That's a lot.
3,000 employees.
3,000 employees. Okay. And so the hottest chick, like his coworkers are trying to hook him up with the hottest chick there, and he works in a small city. And he's just like, I mean, but there's a couple of hot chicks for him to choose from, and they're all too stupid for him. And so he wants to come to me and complain that he can't, there's nobody for him to date because all the hot chicks are
not being outed.
I guarantee hot chicks aren't watching this. I would say hot chicks. Only the hot chicks that are here.
I didn't say they were
that work with you.
I said they were boring. That's
boring.
Oh, that's even worse.
You can be a 10, but if you have no personality with it, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's
I just want
that's a
to throw this
problem.
out here. All the chicks in the chat are hot. I did not mean what I
And
said.
y'all all
Did
have
not mean the worst
personality.
sentiment.
Y'all are all
Oh,
funny. Yes, y'all are
no,
all great dates.
yes. You are all like
Yes.
perfect 10s.
Everyone's
But alas, undateable.
okay.
But no, I think it's definitely okay to hang out older people. You know, I mostly hang out with my dad and his friends, so it's it's cool. You know, like you know,
But I
I
mean, do
like
you have a
hanging out with
problem
older
with dating
people.
because you
I
think
always
everybody is too
have,
stupid?
and yeah, and also I think it's hard depending on what your interests are and where you're at in life. It can be very difficult to socialize with your peers locally. Like that's a lot of confines for most people. Like most, like, you know what I'm saying? Like regions of the country, cities or whatever, they often have very particular cultures, you know what I mean? And then if depending on your personality type, if you don't jive with that, like you don't have a lot of options. So I think it's just becoming more and more normalized for people to just find communities online, and then like if you can make a friend or two in real life, like that's cool. Like, that's at least that's how I see it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know it's hard to find friends offline as an adult.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
when I was his age actually. I was in Payless. I miss Payless.
No, you don't.
And I brought him with me, and I'm like, it's me and this other chick, and we're trying on shoes, and he was the same age as her kid. And he didn't have toys with him, but the other kid did. And he just walked over and it's like, hey, can we play? And like, they're just like best friends by the time that me and the other mom walked out of the shoe store. I had no idea. Like, I can't even remember her face, but like I don't
It's hard.
know.
It is so hard to
Yeah.
do. The older we get, the harder it is to
Everyone is as
make
old.
friends.
Yeah. And as you get
Yeah.
older, it is harder. But like trying to even have like, your point though, like even trying to start those conversations or trying to find things in common become increasingly harder as well.
I feel like the talking part is like easy. Like I could go up to something. You've seen me at the grocery store where I talk to that lady and that dude.
Yeah, he just walks up to people and be like, "Hey, I need to ask you a question," and I'm
I
like,
like your face.
So the most recent like to scale social experience I had was new faculty orientation.
mm-hmm.
And I think it was very interesting because it very much had first day of school vibes for us, but it was like we're the faculty now. And it was interesting because thinking about it, it was very proactive, two proactive things. One, we all were kind of on the same page about kind of trying to get some camaraderie because you're stuck there all day for this really boring orientation. So you're trying to get some camaraderie just to have somebody to make offhanded comments with, make this whole thing go by a little bit quicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're literally all new to this place. So you're literally trying to make some friends, trying to figure out like who's in your department, you know. And it was funny. So this is like us trying, right? So it wasn't like a group, you know, sometimes a group in a social situation where you're not really trying, everybody just wants to go home. Like we were like really trying. Like people are introducing themselves to each other. They're trying to like sync up, you know, what they have in common. They're exchanging contact information. But the realities are so hard. We all respect each other, but we're all in different fields. So it's hard to sustain conversations about your work or your research.
Is it easier though to like strike up a conversation? And
it is for like the first 5 minutes, and then when it gets into like the stuff that's like I don't know. The small talk was easy, but then it felt like the realities are, oh, we're gonna actually be in different parts of campus. Oh wait, no, you're a law school person. You're actually gonna be literally in a different town. Oh wait, you're a commuter. You actually live in New York. What, you live in? Oh, you actually live in Connecticut. We ain't never hanging out. And then literally like most of y'all are married and you have families. So it was just funny just being like, we are literally like kids in the first day of school trying to make friends, but the actual realities of being grown middle-aged adults is making this shit really complicated. But we tried. So, fun group, nice guys, nice people.
I know.
All right, so I got another one for y'all. I got another little wrinkle to get in here before as we going. All right, so look. Another quote is from Upton Sinclair, an American novelist, who said, and y'all probably heard this before too, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on him not understanding it. And I think this,
We've talked
especially
about
when
this
you
a
deal
lot.
with apologists and content creators and stuff like that, this is kind of relevant, right? And it's kind of in the same vein.
And so this is the point where I have to agree with Key. There are some people who are, I mean, when we talk about Andrew Wilson, Kent Hovind, Tim Bob, like all these, they are trolling for cash, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not, if you talk to them, you have to understand that you're not talking to them. You're talking, hoping that there's someone else, like you're talking to their audience. And that's the only reason that you would have a conversation with them at all. You're not trying to bring them around. That's not a thing. You understand that they have an audience that lives in an echo chamber. And the only time they come out of their hole in the ground is to follow them into the light like a Pied Piper. And this is one of your very few times where you don't get banned trying to help them, stay on the grass that we all need to touch from time to time. Outside of that, it's not worth it. Like there's no reason to have a conversation one-on-one with Andrew Wilson. It's completely fruitless. All he's going to do is try to gaslight you and or pour you to his side. And if you're going in there honestly, it's going to be completely fruitless.
Yeah, I just need you to apply to all the Twitter users and we're good.
I mean, it's different on Twitter though.
I mean, they're not trying to gaslight you, okay, but they're still not going to understand your point.
People do. I think that if you go on Twitter and then you can show that you're like talking to people in good faith, the trolls walk away because like when you're a decent person, generally people feel what's the word I'm looking for? Like bad or embarrassed. And they're just like, you know what? I'm not going to be the kid at the table. But yeah, I've inadvertently walked into like preachers who were in Twitter with their whole congregation trying to attack me on, some kind of political stance I took. And at that point, you understand that they're just there to attack, and it's like, and I'm logging off. But generally speaking, most people are there to have a conversation. And I've at least been able to part on one point of agreement with a lot of right-wingers about an issue, which I call planting seeds. And it's a step towards making them think a different way about, a stance. And I think that's necessary in the conversation.
So some of it, to me, I think people do just because it's what they're into. I think people just need to go ahead and say, look, you like to go home and watch your shows. I like to go home and argue with morons on the internet. It's probably junk food a lot of times for both of us or whatever, but it is what it is. Sometimes I do just, I hate to say this, y'all, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but y'all, I'm that guy. Y'all know how like you'll be watching some content and it's totally unrelated. Like it's a real crime drama. It's a sports thing. It's a celebrity gossip thing or whatever. But there will nevertheless be some Christian in there that's just like, Jesus loves you and
Yeah.
he wants you to da 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 da. Y'all, I'm that person that's literally like, LMAO, there is no God. Stop with this.
I'm right there with you. I'm the
I'm
same.
sorry, I'm that person. I know it's not productive. I know
No, I'm
it's
with you,
silly.
man. That's why
I just
get your
can't help
Sky Daddy
myself.
out of here.
Yeah, I just can't help myself.
I'm just trying to laugh, and then I see that shit in the comments. The comments are the best part about the videos sometimes, and now you're just ruining it.
Yeah, and yeah, I do feel that way, and that's also the thing I do feel put upon. I feel like that's the thing about religious people is they just want to inject it everywhere, and they never get any pushback. So yeah, but I also think this, which is really interesting to think about. I think a lot of us, even though a lot of the conversations we have are totally unproductive, I think they've really prepared us for the productive ones. Like, I think there's a way now when I anticipate a conversation with a Christian that I do think is sincere or somebody I really want to talk to. When I think about being ready for that conversation, I feel like over prepared. I feel like there's no argument they're going to bring up I haven't heard a million times and already know what to deal with. And, you know, having experienced so many of the bad faith conversations just makes it like, okay, I'm ready for this.
I mean, you are ready for the conversations, which is why it's so, I don't know, disheartening to me sometimes. Like, I've seen you have like the conversations with Dr. Price and, so like when you're like raging out, and I understand, I'm like, I know it feels good just to be like, screw you, and the horse you rode in on, and get out of here, you Nazi. But like, to the Gnostic informants and the Mark Reeds of the world that we still need to keep on our side, because we need them to have conversations with the Nazis, so that we can make a claim to our own rights. I think sometimes it's you have to toe the line, and I think that I've said this to you before, where I think there's a bunch of different people, and there's people at every different point in the conversation, or in the the process, the spectrum, the political spectrum, the religious spectrum, the whatever spectrum, right? And it has to look different, because there's a bunch of us speaking to each of those people, and you're going to need the Matt Dillahunnies, and you're going to need the the Mark Reeds, and everybody in between, and it because we're trying to reach everybody in between. So I mean, I don't want to come on here and be like, well, you need to be more like me, but like there has to be, once you're done yelling at them and berating them and beating them into the corner, and they're like, all right, I give, you have to have like the list of demands, like this is what the pathway to forgiveness looks like, right?
Yeah, this is all like so like interesting and complicated. And I plan to get into this with some other people like Michael and maybe Jefferson Spatchcock, but I definitely think it's worth getting into here. So part of what I feel is like really like this thing where I get I get frustrated sometimes, feeling like the other side gets to set the table for how they want the conversation to go. I always say when people talk to assholes like Pine Creek Doug, it's like, they're going to use the tone of voice he likes, wear the outfit he told you to wear, make sure you cook him the dinner he told you to make. And from my perspective, they do that to their own ends. They do that to make sure the conversation is something they're comfortable with, doesn't make them too uncomfortable, doesn't really challenge them. And then if you do that, if you play good, they'll like reward you, like, oh, I enjoyed talking to you. Here's a cookie. You can come back on my channel. But to me, if you do that enough times, to me it feels like you don't really care about the issues that supposedly motivate you to oppose that person to begin with. Like I see these people like getting all these conversations with apologists, and I so at some point I'm going, do you even care about the harmful effects of religion? I don't think you do. I actually think you just are so excited to have a debate with a person you've been making videos about for 3 months that that like that's what this has become to you, when like I'm literally concerned about the way my mother's going to behave in the last stages of her life and whether I'm going to be able to be part of that process or if it's just going to be all gone to the goon squad of religion. And like, you know, like it's a very pressing, like pragmatic, Black people deserve the truth, I'm trying to like work us towards something better, and it gets frustrating feeling like our allies or whatever aren't really doing anything, and then it gets frustrating because at the same time we don't get to have those conversations, and then when we do, they effectively feel like can't win conversations, because if I do what everybody else does, then I feel like I've missed the opportunity myself to like to bring out that other side, to really bring it and like I've done the thing of just sitting up here and playing nice and talking about the whatevers, and then of course if I don't, then I get the, oh well, you know, we don't disagree with what you said, but you made us all look bad because you yelled at the person or whatever. And literally, like, it's really interesting to think about, like, probably the 3 biggest interactions I've had with people probably would be Kent Hovind, probably that conversation with Bob Price, with Chrissy or whatever, and then the Michael Behe thing. And it was like I was super nice and like almost comically and funny with the Kent Hovind thing, and then like critical but reserved with the whole Bob Price thing and let Chrissy take the lead. And then I literally wanted to send Michael
really
Behe.
Had to be.
And then I sent Michael Behe crying to his mom.
Yeah, I know that was a high point for you.
And so, but believe it or not, like that's the approach I got the least amount of blowback for. Believe it or not, like people were pissed at me for playing games with Kent Hovind and like, why didn't you shove your foot up Bob Price's ass like we thought you should? So that's what I'm saying. Y'all fickle. You
would have gotten kicked off.
Y'all are fickle.
You would have gotten kicked off the stream for being.
Oh no, I agree. And plus, people have to understand there's a lot of considerations at play. Like in that situation, like you said with Gnostic Informant, I consider him a friend. I consider Derek a friend. They asked me and Chrissy to do that because the pretense was Bob wanted to work his way back in. So a lot of that disposition of giving him a chance was what that situation called for. You know what I'm saying? And
no, yeah, you did. Yeah. Okay, so I think people need to understand office politics, right? You can't just go you can't just act the way you would want to act on anybody's stream.
Right,
you know,
right,
when
right. We don't act like on Skeptic Haven. We don't act like we do on our own channel.
No, you know, it's like, man, I haven't nearly as much as I'd like to. But, you know, I've made like no dick jokes.
I hear a lot of dick jokes.
Yes, yes. Oh my God. I have the emotes. You know, we are adults in my stream. And over here, I have to be an adult, which is cool. And well, you know what, Richmond Dies is kind of bringing up how I wanted to piggyback off Jay's comment anyway. So
let me pull this up. Awesome. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Richmond. I know we talk about working across the table, but should we be first try to make a viable Black ecosystem first? Is it even possible, or do we do it in parallel? That's a great question. Go ahead,
So that
Maya.
is a great question. And man, you know what? I meant to write this down. There's a quote. Jay, did you make the quote? Somebody made the quotes over the weekend that Black people, oh man, I don't even remember the quote, but it was like, Black people and only of the rights that are in that white people are already like trying to get. Like we have to piggyback on, whatever's like, it can't be something that's just for us. Like nobody's gonna care about that. Like like that's why reparations has never gotten off the ground, and quite a few other things, honestly.
Yeah, when we start talking about unity, it's always what's best for everybody, and what's
Right.
best for Black people gets put in the background. It might
Yeah.
start with Black Lives Matter, or
And then it
Black
slowly morphs
rights,
to all
but
lives matter.
yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, to say we talk about working across the aisle, you have to remember that we're 13% of the population. We came over here conquered. The conquered people are in a diminished position. And oh my God, there's another quote, but it's like, your ability to fight is, limited by your physical power. Like we don't have any physical power, and our political power is limited. We have to work within the system. Like we're relegated to that. We have no force. So, we're really confined to the amount of persuasion we're able to influence on white people, honestly, and the government, insofar that they're not white people. We need white allies who wield influence in the greater, area. And I talk about Mark Reed a lot, but him even being Aussie is a white man that wields greater influence on Nazis than Jay talking to his countrymen who think that Jay is a talking monkey. And there's no degree that Jay can hold. There's no there's no suit and tie that Jay can don. There is no, there's no $5 words that Jay can bring to the conversation. Until there's, enough Mark Reed saying, no, listen to him. No, really. Jay's just, a chimp in a suit, just, eking words at them. He has the rights that they believe he should have, which, and a lot of them, would cheer his death if he were gunned down by the cops. We have to work across the aisle. That this is the position we're in. And, I understand that riots are the conversation of the voice of the oppressed, or I can't think of shit today. What was that MLK saying, Jay? Riots are the voice of the oppressed, or the something of the oppressed. But
He's on it. He's looking it up.
Sorry. He's on it.
Voice of the unheard.
Voice of the unheard, yeah.
There you go.
But like once you're done like burning shit down, you have to have the list of demands. And that was actually kind of our bad. And Black Lives Matter, where we're saying, hey, we want to be heard. And white people were like, okay, if you would just stop burning down our shit, we'll give you whatever you want. And we're like, well, can you do something with the cops? And they're like, sure. And then they were like, psych. And we didn't have there wasn't a follow-up because we didn't have the foundation and the infrastructure to ensure that things were being done. And this is where we are. So can we try to make a viable Black ecosystem first? Yeah, and so far that they don't do a Rosewood or a Black Wall Street, or, any number of the other towns that they burned down and, salted the earth with. on us, and then gaslit us, and made us think that we were the cause of our own oppression. But right now we're relegated to working within the system, and I don't know. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh man, so sorry, were you gonna say something, Key? Go ahead.
No, I mean, no. This is over my sound my vocabulary. Yes, I'm talking
Now
about
we talk about community. All right, so my thoughts are it's really hard. So one, I want to say I think it's really important to establish Black spaces and Black communities. I think it's really difficult to, and it's especially difficult to do so as non-believers, and shout out to Skeptic Haven. I mean, that's why we were really excited about doing this, is to try to attract more people into the space.
Or even to get our
but
voice
also,
heard,
to be
because
honest
there's
with
nothing like this in the skeptic
there's
community.
nothing like it. And I think to be fair, like, if you're watching us, like, it's interesting. Like, Maya and I think, are considered Black people who were largely integrated into a white community and are pushing it to be more diverse and inclusive, rather than Black people who are centered in Black communities that have crossed over into popularity with white folks. And that has consequences for us, because at least for me, when I interact with people in those Black-centered communities, there's kind of an initial, like, what's up with you?
Yeah.
Because you with them people and they'll call me,
Right.
And so what I want people to realize is, like, there's kind of a cost to being this way. And a lot of times I think part of, like, my always joke is, Jay's like, I'm blackity black. A lot of times the reason I'm that way is because I realize, especially to other Black people, I operate with a lot of privilege, and they're watching what I do with it. They're watching what I do with it. They're watching, am I getting too comfortable? Am I letting the wrong people be comfortable around me? You know what I'm saying? Am I really speaking up for Black folks, or am I really speaking up for my acceptance and trying to make people around me? So a lot of time when y'all really see me go in on somebody or go off on something, a lot of it is I have to be able to have a certain amount of integrity and sleep at night and feel like I'm not betraying my people by the way I carry myself and the things I say in these spaces. So I think that's part of it, is I'm just being fair to say I don't have all the answers. And I think a person who saw themselves as a Black content creator in a primarily Black community dealing with primarily Black issues would probably give you a very different answer, to just be fair, right? Like, but I do think in general it's important that we try to do both, because a lot of times, I think, at least from my perspective, we've never had the institutional enfranchisement that we've needed to bring about the type of change we need without other people's cooperation. Right. We still do need our own spaces for our own resiliency, to support our own resources, and to just tell each other, I love you, you're beautiful, and we're definitely enough, and we got this. And there's some shit that, quite frankly, we just can't talk about in front of y'all. but to keep it 100, like, when I do go in those spaces and I'm authentic, people typically understand that it's important that we cultivate well-informed and well-meaning allies. But that's also why I hold some of y'all feet to the fire. Like, you say you're anti-racist, but I need to see you doing anti-racism, or else you're gonna make me look bad. Quite frankly, that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you flat out. You're gonna make me look bad, and you ain't finna make me look bad. So either you finna put your foot up his ass, or I'm finna put my foot up yours. That choice is yours. Right? Fine, I'm keeping it real. Am I telling the truth?
No, I hear you. I hear you. You know what? It kind of reminded me of a talk I was having with Kiev. Oh man, maybe a year ago, where he was saying, like, I know me and you, like, we grew up in Catholic school, so you know we're used to being the only Black person in the room. And for me, I couldn't give that to him. And I know I'm gonna wrap this up quick because Richmond gave us like 2 super chats, and right, we're gonna get to you. We see you. We thank you. But he was saying to me that because I couldn't afford to put him in a private school, so I moved to good neighborhoods where I could send them to good public schools. But of course, those are going to be the white schools with the higher what do you call it, rent payments, or and the thing that you have to trade off is, he's going to school with a lot of white kids. And he said to me once, like, I feel like sometimes when I go into Black areas, I feel like I'm code switching. And I could just be myself on white people.
They have to.
And I felt that. Like, I really felt that. And I think about that conversation, and then Jay, listening to you talk about this, it's like, it is a privilege just to be able to seamlessly talk to white people. There is a privilege in that. And a lot of what I do here and the pushing back, and, I understand that it makes people feel uncomfortable, and it's not, I don't have like some perverse joy about making white people feel uncomfortable.
Right. Right. That's a great point.
But I kind of need everybody to understand the privilege. And I feel like I owe it to my community to say I'm able to speak to white people in a way that makes other Black people feel uncomfortable to do. And if I can do it uncomfortably, I mean, if I can be comfortable and have the conversation and not scare off the white person, I feel kind of like I have an obligation to cross the aisle and say, hey, this is our experience, and I'm not asking you to do anything yet. I just want you to listen, and it's always their decision whether or not they want to cross the aisle. But if I can, this is an American experience. And, like I was saying in, I think Joe's stream maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago when I was filling in for Robin, I was saying this isn't a Black thing. Everything always starts off as a Black thing, and then it becomes a Jewish thing, and then a poor white thing. And what they're trying to do right now is dwindle the middle class so that we can have more poor white people. So the things that you think are white problems right now, give it 20 years, it could completely be your problem. Fight with me now while you don't have the problem. This is always our fight. And I think, it's more of a public service announcement that I'm doing. I'm not trying to like manipulate anybody. I really believe like everybody in here, I want to say, I know probably 90% of the chat, and I do consider them friends, and I'm not trying to manipulate them into doing what I want them to do. I want them to understand that they're coming for you. Like, yeah, they're coming for me, but you need to see this as the canary in the coal mine for you. This isn't just about me. And we need to stand together, because that's the only time the non 1% have been successful.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to these super chats, and then I got a question for Keith. So physical equals political, economic, and cultural power. We will always be minimized. We hope the other aisle recognizes us or even listens to us.
Yeah, that's what I was
absolutely. I'm like pocketing my yet I am militant in my blackness. You can walk in that world, but be true to you. Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like, believe it or not, like it's certain neighborhoods that let's just say I feel like a lot of people think you have to look a certain way or be a certain way to be comfortable. And I always say nothing plays in the hood like authenticity. So like I remember like when I worked in the court and I would go go cop, you know what I'm saying? I'll be with my people. I was dressed in a suit and tie. People knew I was being myself. You know, it's like, yo, can I help you if you need anything? Like, you don't put on airs, because that's when people see right through that. People see right through that. But
there's one more.
Yeah, we're definitely not a monolith, and be yourself. You know, people will recognize that. All right, here we go. Do we, as those blacks who feel comfortable moving in that world, do we tap dance to make whites feel comfortable? Nope. I think there's definitely. I definitely think there's a history of us being compelled to do so. And I think there's a new ethos that says we definitely can't do that, but we're in a time of transitioning from one stance to the other. That's my
Key,
opinion.
that's a good question for you, though. Do you feel like you have to tap dance to make white people feel comfortable?
I don't really see race. It depends on like the person. I usually would coach for black people, but everyone else just gets me.
Now that's interesting. That's very interesting. And see, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, that's different, because I think in us coming up, it was the way we dress, the way we talk, the way you wear your hair. And so much of that is like, fortunately, not nearly as much of a thing anymore. Here's the other thing I want to ask you about is the come up. Right. So we've talked about like, you know, it's hard to reason people out of a position they weren't reasoned into. And related to that, it's hard to get somebody to understand something when their salary forces them not to. And I think a lot of us, we think of like these old grifters, these apologists, and these people that have written their books and they've gotten their PhDs and now they're just paid professional liars. But what I think is very different is you live in a world where that's becoming like an ambition. And so what do you do when you might just be a young person with some bad ideas, but now it's like a come up? Like if you're styling and you're cooking with your right wing opinions, there's gonna be a lot of followers and money and sponsorship deals. Like it seems like a lot of pressure for a young person to deal with.
I feel like you can't really get away with, like, you can be successful in anything that you try to, because there's always going to be someone that agrees with you. So I feel like it's way easier to do now than back then, but I don't think I had that issue.
But you do see it. I'm thinking more about like just people in your generation, right? Because I think a lot of times we assume, I guess here's what I'm getting at. I think we assume young people are always getting smarter, and the way the arc of history bends are always getting more liberal. And I'm like, no, if you looking right now, like a easy, profitable come up is to try to be the next Ben Shapiro or whatever.
I know there was like,
I don't think. Do you know who Ben Shapiro is?
Oh, maybe it's him.
Yeah, no, I like him.
Okay, you know he's Ben. Okay.
Mother doesn't, but from the limited clips that I've seen, I mean, but no, I know there's like a lot of ways to like make money. Like there's like faceless AI that you can do where you just you automatically like generate TikTok videos, and those get thousands of views, and you just walk out with like 10 to 30,000 a month. So like the bar for being like creative and has definitely like gotten lower. It's like way easier to like be successful. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking or not for me, but.
Well, yeah, that, and just like I think, because I feel like part of that is a temptation pulling away from substance, right? It's a lot of incentive to not do it the old school route of stay in school and learn your craft and study under the experts and all of this shit. You could just be like, make me a right wing video that owns the lefties or whatever. And it's also scary because AI feeds off what's already out there.
Mhm.
And from our
Yeah.
perspective, a lot of the algorithms seem pretty slanted. So if the AI starts from misinformation and then it can create, it can make it really easy to create misinformation. It's a cycle. And I'm not like one of those people that's super paranoid about it. I work with artificial intelligence. I think we'll be okay. But I do recognize, I guess what I'm getting at is I think people should not take for granted that young people are just gonna be more informed than us because they have, smartphones and whatever, and realize that I think there is a lot of social pressure that can unfortunately pull people in the wrong direction very easily.
We
Mhm.
definitely have a lot of information to us that we're just not using because, like, I literally wouldn't even have to go to school for like cybersecurity. I can just learn it off of YouTube. But yeah, I still need the certificates, but I wouldn't really have to take the classes for it. Literally have like just off of your phone alone, you have so much information they did like 30 or 40 years ago, but no one's using it because everything's too easy. This generation really promotes like laziness, and no one has the attention span or like drive to really pursue anything anymore, and that's in myself as well. I lack a lot of motivation, which might just be for people in general, but it definitely strikes from.
All right, so here's a good topic. I think when you bring that up, here's a good topic for us to close on. Um, what are your thoughts about, because we talked about like you can't, the information thing. I think part of the thing I'm realizing based off what you said is the value of information has changed tremendously because to learn some of the things about how the world works, it felt like that original kick of knowledge was very hard won. And so people thought, oh my goodness, we split the atom, we figured out gravity, oh my goodness, we discovered evolution. It felt like every new breakthrough was a landmark achievement for humanity. Now, information, you're just overwhelmed with it. It's mundane, it's everywhere. And so I think part of the reason maybe it's hard to use information to change people's minds is because information just feels so cheap, for lack of a better way to put it.
And also, it's easy to like make up any information. You don't really know what's real or not. Have you ever seen the AI pictures of Taylor Swift? It looks so
No,
real.
no.
I
Really?
saw the one where Donald Trump did an AI of Taylor Swift endorsing him.
Oh, mother, you'd love this one. Someone did an AI art of Elon Musk being a Nazi.
Are you sure
You'd
that was
love
Wait,
it.
AI?
don't put that in the
No, no.
private chat. Don't put
Yeah,
that.
right. Don't do that. I'm not altogether sure that was AI, but
Skeptic Haven is a nonprofit that does not endorse any particular candidates or political ideologies.
no.
Yeah, I'll send it to Discord.
All right, but look, y'all, we getting ready to get up out of here. Key, give us your closing thoughts and anything else you want to tell the people.
I don't know. I thought we were going to be ragging on stupid people the entire time. Just ended up being a political
Oh, did
debate.
you? Is there a stupid person you wanted to get out of your system before we head off?
Everyone's stupid.
Except for the people in this chat and sub to
No,
Skeptic
no,
Cave
no.
and J and
Except
me.
y'all. Y'all are
Y'all are the
all
smart ones.
super
You
brilliant.
found us. You pressed that button like a boss.
Y'all are cool people. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. And I think Crystal has dropped Key's links in the chat, and hopefully we'll get one
Yeah,
in the
Key,
My
what do you
description.
very
do?
active Twitch. My very active Twitch.
Go ahead, give him a
What do you do?
follow
What do
on
you do on
Twitch.
Twitch?
Right now, I'm just streaming my pickleball endeavors. Whenever I go out and play pickleball or boxing, that's what I'm usually streaming now.
Uh-oh.
Or maybe I might drop like a stream a game or two. I was gonna do that tonight, but I don't think the old heads would ever be that interested in maybe I don't know.
You'd
So
be surprised. Gaming is ubiquitous.
and yeah, I've got it. Somebody said I wish I could drop a picture in chat. I've got a Discord, and Maya's got a Discord.
Titan has a
Also,
Discord.
oh, Titan has a Discord. So also, I'm gonna plug Gather. Come hang out and Gather. PC, if you could drop a link, that's our virtual headquarters where we hang out
Yeah.
offline.
Jay and I will be
And
in Gather after this.
Michael, yeah, we'll do the after party and Gather. And Michael, you can come hang out if you want to hear my interesting thoughts on Bart Ehrman. That's my little teaser. That's my little teaser to come to the after party if you want to hear what I think about Bart Ehrman.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of scholars, so I stream every Sunday at 9:30 to 11:30 Eastern. A lot of people can only make, half an hour to an hour. It's totally cool. I appreciate the view either way. And this Sunday, we're going to have Dr. Kip Davis.
Oh, you got Kip coming on?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
It's going to be an awesome time.
All right, let me go ahead and handle the business. We want to thank our patrons, Paul Camish, Helen Greene, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozols, Rion, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sonny Shell, Aaron Coalson, and Phil Calderone. Don't forget to check out the other shows on Skeptic Haven. Mondays, every other Monday is Black Freethinkers. Thursdays, The Sunny Spot. Saturday, The Global Atheists and Women Atheists Unload. And Let's Talk on Sundays. All right, gang, thank you so much. After party and gather. We'll see you next time.
Vote. Bring a friend.
God.
Oh, I love that. Vote and bring a friend.